How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are having an awesome Tuesday. Today was Green Bay Packers mandatory minicamp day one. I just put out a highlight video going over all the highlights from the warm-up sessions and route running sessions and all of that sort. So if you want to go watch that, click the link right above to go watch that video. But in this video, we're going to go over the biggest takeaways and things that happened during the team sessions during today's practice, and pretty much just overview everything that happened in today's practice. So today's practice was mandatory, and the Packers had a full attendance according to Matt LaFleur. So the players that were missing, they had excused absences. So really good to see full attendance today. There's also a session tomorrow, mandatory minicamp, and then there's also Thursday. But usually the last day of minicamp is a team building exercise, such as paintball or something like that. They've done that in the past, so likely no practice Thursday, but there is a session tomorrow, so I'll also make videos tomorrow on the practice highlights and a recap as well. And I quickly wanted to go over a little bit of news regarding a former Packers player. The New York Jets have signed yet another former Packers player, signing Adrian Amos to a one-year, $4 million deal. I mean, the Jets at this point are the AFC Packers. I mean, they have so many Packers over there in New Jersey. And the funny thing about this is it's a one-year, $4 million deal. The Packers are paying Adrian Amos more. Adrian Amos's cap hit against the Green Bay Packers in 2023 is just over $7.9 million. So it's kind of upsetting to see this, but it seemed very clear the Packers weren't bringing back Adrian Amos into the building. They already were paying $7.9 million due to all the void years, so they weren't going to add more on top of that and just roll with the guys they currently have. So we have another Green Bay Packer on the New York Jets. All right, so first let's go over all the players returning today that we missed during OTAs. Most importantly, the two most important players returning today are Rasul Douglas and Jair Alexander. They were out the entirety of OTAs. Of course, it's voluntary, so they have every right to not show up to OTAs, but mandatory minicamp is mandatory. So really nice to see Douglas and Jair back in practice today. Cornerbacks 1 and 2. So it's clear Jair's not holding out or anything of that sort. So really nice to see them back, and in general, a full attendance today. There's no, worries there like we see with Buffalo today where Stephon Diggs didn't show up. There's nothing like that with the Green Bay Packers, so no worries there. And Tay Wicks also returned today. I think he was out the last couple of OTAs, so he's back with his helmet on, at least running around. So really nice to see that as well. And then we also saw Eric Stokes moving around during warmups. It's the first kind of real clip we've seen of him moving around ever since that really bad leg injury. So looking good for him. He looks good in this clip moving around, and for his potential to maybe start practicing during training camp next month. So we'll see exactly what happens there. Now, the players not practicing, a decent list here: Donald Levitt, Eric Stokes, Rashawn Gary, John Garvin, who was still not there today, but Matt LaFleur said every player was in attendance and the ones that weren't have an excuse. So I guess John Garvin has an excuse. Maybe he has an excuse for OTAs because he wasn't there either. I just don't see that guy making the team. So John Garvin didn't practice. Jake Hansen and Grant DuBose didn't practice. They've kind of been out, I think, all of OTAs. Haven't seen much of Grant DuBose so far, which is a shame because I do like that guy. I do like that pick in the 7th round. Chris Slayton, I believe, is a new injury. They don't list what injuries they are, but he didn't practice today. And also a new one was Tarvarius Moore, but I don't know if he's injured or not. He just wasn't in the building, so it could just be a personal matter or something like that sort, but he wasn't practicing today. Now moving on to the starting offense during team sessions today, the Packers started out with an 11 personnel, so 1 tight end and 1 running back. It was Jordan Love at quarterback, Aaron Jones at running back, Luke Musgrave at tight end. They've been really rotating that around between DeGuara and Musgrave. At wide receivers, it was Dobbs and Watson. That has been the same, I think, all of the entirety of the offseason, but importantly, Malik Heath got some snaps with the ones today. During the team sessions, the Packers split both ends of the fields, and they kind of had the 2s on one side and the 1s on the other side, and Malik Heath was on the side with the 1s, getting snaps with the 1s, and he's been very impressive in camp so far, so definitely a name to watch out for that wide receiver room. He could certainly sneak into that 6th spot and steal that 6th spot at wide receiver. We'll see how it goes. There's been no pads on yet. We've seen in years past with players like Juwan Winfrey, who always show out in these type of practices, and everyone is hype around him, and then it just disappears. So we'll see. Got to get the pads on. You got to perform in training camp, and then of course, preseason to make this roster. So, but nonetheless, he has been doing well during OTAs and minicamp. The starting offensive line, David Bakhtiari. So again, second time in a row starting in team portions. Very important to see him starting in team portions this early with all the knee issues we've had over the past 2 years. Elton Jenkins at left guard, Josh Myers at center, John Runyon Jr. at right guard, and Zach Tom at right tackle. So they've really been rotating Zach Tom and Josh Nyman in with the ones at right tackle. It seems like every other practice. As for the starting defense, they opened up in a nickel defense. So 2 defensive linemen were Kenny Clark and TJ Slayton. The edge players were Preston Smith and Justin Hollins. They've really been rotating that outside guy opposite Preston Smith a lot. We've seen Lucas Van Ness. We've seen Justin Hollins. We've seen Kingsley Anagbar. I think this is Justin Hollins' second start with the ones. I believe Justin Hollins is here to stay. He's almost a roster lock to me, just because, we don't know when Rashawn Gary's going to be back. They re-signed him. I thought he played really well after the Packers signed him late last season, and I believe the Packers, like him a lot, and he's going to be a depth rotational guy. Could potentially even start week 1, technically start. I mean, edge players only really play, 60 to 65% of snaps. There's going to be a lot of rotating there, but I do believe the Packers like Justin Hollins a lot. At inside linebacker, it was Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker per usual. And as for the cornerbacks, it was Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas, and Keyshawn Nixon in the slot. I think that's going to be the starting lineup going into week 1. We saw during OTAs it was Ballantyne and Shamar Jean-Charles and Keyshawn Nixon. So that's definitely not the lineup that they're going to go with. That's because Jair and Rasul were out. But now that they're back, they have their starting lineup. And I love to see that. I want to see this number 1 defensive back group go against this new group of wide receivers and tight ends. And as for the safeties, it was Rudy Ford and Darnell Savage. That's been the starting duo all of OTAs and now into minicamp. All right, so now let's go over the offensive takeaways from today's practice. The Romeo Dobbs and Jordan Love connection has continued. During OTAs, that was Jordan Love's number 1 target. He found Romeo Dobbs often in the team sessions, and that continued today. And even more impressive, Romeo Dobbs on his big gain today from Jordan Love was against Jair Alexander. He beat Jair deep in the back of the end zone on a sliding catch. It was good coverage by Jair, but even a better throw by Love and a better catch by Romeo Dobbs. Love to see that connection continue, them building rapport. Love is going to have to build a lot of rapport with Dobbs and Watson if he wants this offense to mesh early on. And speaking of Watson, Love also hit him deep on a 96-yard touchdown. It was in 7v7s. I think the Packers only ran 7v7s today. But there was no defender even close. Like, it was up the right sideline. Christian Watson burned that defense, and it was an easy touchdown. Would have been a 96-yard touchdown. And I see that deep throw chemistry starting with Watson and Love. Love also found Musgrave over the middle on a really nice catch. Nice to see them starting to use Musgrave like up the middle, up the seam, whatever it may be. Rudy Ford had really nice coverage on the play, but Musgrave still came down with it with his strong hands. And also another busted coverage on the defense during 7v7s where Love found Samori Toure wide open deep. So it seemed like busted coverages today. It is 7v7, so it's a little bit different, but Jordan Love did really good today. I think it was a very nice day for Love and company on offense. They looked good and played fast. He found Dobbs, Watson, Musgrave, and Toure. Now moving on to the defense takeaways / highlights. Now, the defense did win the first 4 plays on the 7v7s, but then gave up a lot. As I mentioned, Love started to really light them up after those first 4 plays. Now, after Jair Alexander got beat by Romeo Dobbs in the back of the end zone, the very next play, they went right back at him, but it was against Jaden Reed, and Jair blanketed Jaden Reed. Had really nice coverage. Welcome to the NFL, rookie. Devondre Campbell also had wonderful coverage on Luke Musgrave up the seam route in 7v7, so Musgrave had a really nice catch up the seam against Rudy Ford, but they also tried it against Devondre Campbell, and he locked him up. And Ennis Gaines continues to get snaps from the slot, so continuing what he did last year. They really are moving that guy around, his versatility at safety into the slot. So if he's going to make this roster, he's going to have to show that versatility. So the Packers definitely are trying to use that and use him in the slot as well. Quay Walker also showed great coverage in the flat on A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon dropped the ball anyways. It seems like A.J. Dillon has a few drops during OTAs and now mini camp, so definitely got to clean that up. I feel like he's a very underrated receiver at running back, and I think he does have solid hands, just needs to clean that up. So nice to see both linebackers doing well in coverage today. And speaking of linebackers, Isaiah McDuffie continues to be the next man up at linebacker, the main second string inside linebacker behind Campbell and Quay. Now, we also have a little bit of special teams takeaways as well. We saw some special teams work today. First and foremost, Keyshawn Nixon and Jaden Reed were the two players taking snaps at kick return. I don't think there's any way Keyshawn Nixon isn't kick return 1 to start the year, but it's nice to have a second guy there in case Nixon can't do it, is tired, gets hurt or whatever. And Jaden Reed was a really, really nice returner in college, so, you know, he could even be the punt return number 1 to start the season, but super excited for Keyshawn Nixon year 2 of him at kick return. I think he's the best kick return in the NFL last year, and it's so nice to finally have that guy on the Green Bay Packers. I feel like it's been so long since we've had a returner like him. And the last thing to mention about special teams, we finally started to see some kicking from Anders Carlson. Not much, but he did go 2 for 3 in field goals. He made one from 41 and 47, and he missed one from 44, which went wide right. So that does it for all the main takeaways for the Packers' first minicamp practice. As I said, there'll be another one tomorrow, so be on the lookout for both videos tomorrow, the highlights and the takeaways, just like this video. And also subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you're a new viewer to this video. It supports my channel a ton. And turn on notifications so you don't miss the videos and stay up to date with everything Green Bay Packers this offseason. It'll all be here right on this channel. But that about does it for this one. Please leave a like down below if you did enjoy this video. I appreciate y'all watching. I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.